Alright, today we're diving into the world of Lauren Owen, an author who pulls off this incredible balancing act between serious academic brainpower and stories that are just genuinely thrilling. So let me just ask you this, because it's really the whole key to understanding her. What happens when a PhD expert on vampires actually sits down to write a vampire novel? We're not talking about someone who's just a fan of the genre. We're talking about a scholar who then decided to jump into the arena and build something completely new from the inside. And that background leads us to what I think is the perfect name for her: a Gothic architect. You see, every story she tells is built piece by piece on this incredibly strong academic foundation. Yeah, and this is so important, because for her, writing novels isn't just a side gig. Her creative work is a direct extension of her scholarly research. It's what happens when you take years of intense study and pour it all into fiction. And that puts her in a very special, very unique position in the literary world today.
Okay, so let's get into it. Section 2, From Scholar to Storyteller. How exactly did she get here? Let's actually trace her academic journey, because once you see it, you'll understand that her novels are no accident. They're based on a blueprint she's been developing for years. I mean, just look at this path. It's incredible. She starts off studying English at Oxford. Great start. Then she specializes with a master's in Victorian literature. Then she gets another master's, this time in creative writing, where she wins the Curtis Brown Prize, which is a huge deal for an unpublished writer in the UK. Every single step builds on the last, giving her this amazing depth of knowledge in the exact worlds she was about to create. And then you have this, the title of her PhD thesis, Dracula's Inky Shadows, the Vampire Gothic of Writing. I mean, come on, does it get more direct than that? This tells us everything. She was deconstructing the vampire myth academically long before she started reconstructing it for us as readers. And that phrase, Gothic of Writing, is so telling. It means she was studying how these stories are always tied to texts, like letters and diaries. And that idea, it becomes a massive thread in her own novel. Okay, Section 3. Let's see how she reinvents the vampire in her debut novel, The Quick. So after all that research, what does her fiction actually look like? Well, this is where all that study just explodes onto the page in a gaslit, totally absorbing neo-Victorian London. And really quick, what does neo-Victorian actually mean? It's not just a story set in the past with corsets and top hats. It's about going back to that era with our modern mindset, to re-examine its ideas, to question its stories. And this literary space, well, this is Lauren Owen's playground. And this is where we see that Gothic architect really get to work. To reinvent a genre, you have to know its rules inside and out. So yeah, she keeps some classics, like silver being a poison, but then she just twists the others. A wooden stake causes no permanent injury? What? Vampires subbing in brandy or hot tea for blood? She even invents a totally new power called mazement, a kind of hypnotic control. That is the mark of an author who is in complete command. Now, this is one of her most brilliant moves. Historically, vampirism was often a metaphor for forbidden sexuality, right? Owen completely unplugs that. Her main character, James, is queer before he becomes a vampire. For him, vampirism isn't some new transgressive identity. It's this horrible force that threatens to crush the person he already is. It's such a powerful and smart revision of that old trope. And, the literary world definitely took notice. When you get the late, great Hilary Mantel, we're talking a 2-time Booker Prize winner, calling your first book sly and glittering, you've created something with serious weight. The critical acclaim for The Quick was just immense. But if you think she's just a one-trick pony with vampires, you are mistaken. For her second novel, Small Angels, she completely shifts gears. We're moving from the bustling city to the eerie quiet of the English countryside and swapping urban horror for modern folk horror. This quote just nails the atmosphere, doesn't it? Enter the woods, dark and deep. You can feel it. We are in a totally different world here. The threat isn't a club of sophisticated vampires anymore. It's something older, more primal, hiding in the haunted Mockbeggar woods. So the story has all these amazing classic folk horror elements. A haunted place, a family with a dark secret, an ancient being named Harry Child, and these two timelines that weave the past and present together. But the absolute best and most chilling part is the idea that the woods are alive. They're a character in the story that remembers things, that reacts, and that just blurs the line between myth and a very, very real danger.
And this is exactly why the book is so hard to pin down. It's a true genre bender. It's got the dread of horror, the what-if of speculative fiction, the forward momentum of a mystery, and the beautiful writing of literary fiction. And of course, it's all standing on that Gothic foundation. It's a story that absolutely refuses to stay in one box.
So we've looked at two really different books, one about vampires in the city, one about a haunted forest. So what's the common thread here? What is that unique signature that makes a book a Lauren Owen novel?
While across both her novels, these 5 things just shine. Her settings are so rich they feel like characters themselves. The stories are steeped in literary history. You can practically feel her PhD at work behind the scenes. She takes classic Gothic themes and makes them feel brand new. Her characters are psychologically complex, and she's a master at building suspense, using different perspectives, and leaving little gaps that just pull you in.
So, what does this all mean for you? Well, here's the bottom line. If you want more than just a simple scare, if you crave horror that is intelligent, that is beautifully crafted, and that respects where it comes from while creating something totally new, then Lauren Owen is an author you absolutely need to explore.